Hey, you guys, welcome to the live. I'm gonna set up my computer so that I can talk to you guys. Trying to do this live a little bit later on a Sunday evening. Let me turn the sound off so that I can actually get somebody to join me. Looking a little as per usual because we were inside, you know, hanging out, watching a movie. Hi, everybody. Please take a minute to say hey in the chat box and let me know who's joined me here tonight. I'm going to be talking to you guys about my best tips for homeschooling, for starting off on the right foot on the first day of homeschooling. My first day is tomorrow. Hey, and Roberts. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm gonna be talking about, things that I've learned over the years. I'm starting tomorrow. Tomorrow is my first day of school. Uh, Let me know what's going on with you guys. Are you starting school this month, or are you starting school after Labor Day? Are you homeschooling? Are you distance learning? What's going on where you are? Where I am, people are doing a variety of things. We have people that are doing hybrid type of options with their school, where some days they're going in, some days they're not. A lot of schools have, ooh, let me close this door. There's a bee. There was a bee trying to go inside my house. Um, some schools are hybrid. Oh, you're just listening in. You're not in school. That's right, and Roberts. Well, thank you for listening in. Well, some people are doing hybrid. Some people are going online all the way, at least for the first 6 weeks. And you guys know I've been talking to you guys for weeks about the fact that I'm homeschooling independently. Let me lower this camera a little bit. I'm homeschooling independently. And so, you know, meaning in the past, I've used a lot of umbrella schools and a lot of support systems. And the latest umbrella school that I was using had a lot of structure, and they kind of lined themselves up with what was going on with the school in our district. And so, in light of the fact that everything is so up in the air and we don't know what's happening on the day to day, I thought as a homeschooler I could take control of the situation for my kids. So it's not so much that I'm uncomfortable with sending my kids back to school physically, even though I'm not jumping up and down about the idea of my kids having to wear a mask all day. I decided to homeschool independently so that I could be in control, so that I could set the pace for our learning, and so that I could control our curriculum, so that if things should get more stressful in real life, I'm in control. I can decide to take time off. I can decide to slow things down. I can decide to manipulate things because I'm in control, as opposed to working with an umbrella school or putting myself under some kind of organization where I have to flow with what they want to do. Whether that's good or bad, I just want to be in a situation where I can choose what's best for my family. That's why I'm homeschooling. So we're starting tomorrow, you guys. And I did a live not long ago showing you guys this French 1 curriculum that I unboxed. And I took the live down because, once again, I held up the box with my address visible. I've only been on YouTube for a minute, you guys, a long minute, like almost a decade, and I'm making these kind of rookie mistakes. So I took the video down, but I brought it back up again because this has to do with my tip number 1 for the first day of school. We've been doing summer lightly. We've been doing French lightly this summer, just to sort of keep my kids mentally motivated, so that when we start the first day of school, we're not going from the swimming pool to the classroom, if that makes any sense. And so tip number 1 is if your first day of school is not coming until September, I highly encourage you, if you haven't been doing any kind of academics at all with your kids, get them back into it by doing something light. So we were doing French, which they're very excited about. My background, I'm from Haiti, and so my first language was French. And so even though my parents moved to the United States and I became an American citizen, and I've been, in school since age 6 here in America, I spoke French first. And so I do have some French background, but maybe not necessarily enough to know all the jargon and all the lingo. And that's what I learned this summer working lightly with French 1. And so even though school is starting for me tomorrow, I'm not jumping in with both feet. I'm not jumping in with this, because I ordered French 1 because my sixth grader showed such an interest in the French 2 that I was doing with my daughter, that I realized I had to change my plan. So that's tip number 2, stay flexible. Stay flexible. My initial plan for French was that I was going to focus on teaching my daughter, who's already had a year of French, and who's in 10th grade, she's going into 10th grade, she's already had a year of French. And then my 6th grader, I was just going to let her be around and participate in some of the activities and catch what she could catch, but I wasn't planning to work seriously with her. But when I saw how enthusiastic she was this summer, and in some ways even more enthusiastic than my 10th grader, I realized that I needed to go ahead and order French 1 for her. Okay? How do they feel about the change? You're asking me, how do my girls feel about being home instead of going to the umbrella school? Is that what you're asking me? And Robert? I think that's what you're asking me. It's a big change, and it's a big change for them because it's been a long time since I've worked independently. With my kids, we've actually been plugged into a lot of things, and sports, theater. There is no theater. And this umbrella school where she goes once a week, she has a lot of friends there. And initially, when I first approached the conversation with them at the end of the school year last year, when we were still schooling virtually, initially my daughter was very much reluctant to do that. She was somewhat against it. She thought she didn't want to be home all the time. She wanted to be with her friends. She didn't want to let go of the umbrella school. But I think she herself commented on how much more difficult it was to work virtually with them. But from what I understand, they're planning to open in real life and have classes in real life. They're not opening virtually since it's a very small community of kids. But the thing I pointed out to my daughter is that they're still driven by whatever happens in the state and whatever happens with the district, because they operate like a private school. And so, God willing, if everything goes well, they can move forward. And out of everything I've seen, they did a fairly good job with online schooling. It was just stressful. Okay. And so what I'm offering my daughter is the ability for us to flow as a family the way it makes sense for us. And she had to ultimately agree that that was a good idea. And I think the summer trial run, where I've shared in a previous video with you guys that during the summer we did literature, we did French, and we also did some math, and she was able to work with me and see kind of like what the culture of our school is going to be at home and what it's going to be like to work with me. And I think she was somewhat happy with that. And so I think she's going into it optimistically, even though I think if all things were, if all things could be brought to the level that we'd all be satisfied with, she'd of course choose to be able to go back and be with her friends on the day to day. But she's on board with this. Like, she's willing to move forward with working with me at home. And I'm grateful for that, because that's the first step. Okay. I had a talk with them where I explained to them, and I always do this every first day of school. And I feel like I had to do this with my 10th grader especially, because we've been in this umbrella school. Even though we were only attending once a week, for all intents and purposes it did operate like a physical school. She went in that one day, she had all her classes, lectures for an hour in every subject, she had a syllabus to follow with a week's worth of work, and I oversaw it all week long. So my third tip that I would really encourage you to do is to lay out what the expectations are, so that you don't have a certain set of expectations and your kids have a different set of expectations. And so I've already been talking to my girls about what school is going to look like. I told them, like, this is homeschool. This is not school, me bringing your classroom to the house. And so the way I'm planning to work with you will look different than how your teachers work with you with your class. I mean, they had to get up there and do a lecture and stand in front of the whole class and talk to them for an hour, because there were multiple students in the class. That's the most time efficient way to disseminate information. But it's just me and you, so I don't have to work that way with you. Okay. And the way homeschool curriculum is set up, there's a lot of reading that the kids have to do on their own, and it's written in a sort of way that it's understood that it's a student that's reading the information. And then the parent just comes alongside in a more of a tutorial approach. And so this is what I explained to my daughter. I'm not going to get up and lecture you for an hour in English, lecture you for an hour in history, lecture you for an hour in science. Instead, you're going to read the lesson and you're going to work through the problems. And then my curriculum has insights that I may want to share with you. We may want to discuss those, but it's not going to take an hour. You know what I'm saying? And there'll be a back and forth conversation between us about those things. And so in our homeschool, we've actually set up a processing time every day with each kid individually, where they'll work for a number of hours, and then we'll have the processing time where there'll be a discussion between us in case I need to highlight certain things from what I knew that they worked on that day. And it's a back and forth conversation. And I explained to them also that I'm availing myself for the block of time that we're doing school. Say it's 8:30 to 3. Doesn't mean we're going to be working for all those hours, but say I've blocked off that time. During that time, I'm planning to be home. I'm planning to be available. At any time as you're going through your work, as you have questions, as you need more insight, as you need more guidance, there's a constant back and forth between me and my girls. And so it's more of like a tutorial approach. I'm going to be sitting next to you. I'm not going to be standing over you. We may use a chalkboard, okay, because it's effective, but I'm not lecturing. I don't have to lecture to you from a distance because it's only you and I, okay? And I've also highlighted to them that we're homeschooling. I do have expertise in a lot of these things because I've gone through them before, but it's not expertise in the sense that I know every single thing, every single detail. So going into it, we're going into it understanding that I can be successful at this because I can learn this along with you. Okay. And so whatever answers I don't know, what I do know and what I want to share with you is how we're going to go find those answers together. So that kind of brings the anxiety down right away. My fourth tip is for you to let your child know that, this is all about learning how to learn, and we can learn together, and I can give you the tools to get the answers, and we could work through the tools together. And this is primarily so that the child doesn't lose confidence in you if they come and they ask you a question and you don't know the answer right away. Like maybe they might have felt their teacher at school might have known the answer right away. It's not about knowing the answer right away. It's about being able to find the answer. And that's a lifelong skill that I'm trying to give my kids as we go along. Because let's face it, things have changed. You know, a lot of the things we had to memorize before because a book might not be readily available when you're out in the store. Well, now our phones are readily available. There are apps for everything. You know, things that they had to memorize before, they don't have to memorize as much anymore, but they do need to know how to find that information. They do need to know how to navigate things to find the information that they need. Shay Cha says, have you used any learning tools such as Excelis or Centage or MindTap? I've heard of those, but I personally haven't used those myself. But you know, I appreciate learning tools and I like to apply them when I come across them. Shay Shaz also, am I saying that right? Is it she's chat jazz? You know, I'm a wreck it. I'm a wreck it, y'all. Even though I've been speaking English all my life, it's when things like this come up that you don't pronounce things properly is when you remember that English wasn't your first language. Learning how to learn together. I like that. That's right. That's, you know, that takes the pressure off of me and it takes the pressure off of them. Okay. And so I like to reduce the stress considerably by talking about that. Oh, she's Chaz. Okay. But she's Jazz. Okay. But oh, she's Jazz. I got it. Yeah, so I like to take the pressure right up front because what I've noticed happens with me, you know, is that when they lose confidence in what I'm in my leadership, then I start to feel, you know, that sense of self-doubt that a lot of us parents deal with, because somewhere in the back of our minds, a lot of us think that, you know, since we don't have teaching degrees, that we're not really qualified to do this. And, you know, and I'm not, you know, minimizing teachers that have teaching degrees. I think it's excellent. I think it's needed. I think it's necessary. And I think their abilities speak for themselves when you see them in a school setting, you know, but homeschool is not really set up to imitate the classroom setting. It's a whole different animal. Okay. You know, and it's a whole different model of learning. And so we have to combat those voices in our heads all of the time. And so, you know, even from the first day of school, I like to kind of offset those things that will tell me that I'm not capable of doing this, or that I'm going to mess them up somehow, or that I don't have the ability to break down things and to explain things. Okay? Because today, more than ever, you know, and people homeschooled long before these resources were available. But today, more than ever, we have so many resources online, you know, and as long as we know how to tap into those resources, you know, there's no reason why, okay, we're not going to be able to do it, okay? So Alex Gonzalez says, hi, how are you? I'm good. I'm excited. Tomorrow is my first day of school. And I'm excited because I've had a lot of first day of schools. And you know, my son, we celebrated his 23rd birthday. His birthday was earlier this week, but he was working all week, and so we opted to wait until today to celebrate his birthday. And he was homeschooled all the way through, and then he went to college. And so I've had a lot of first days of school. And I've had a lot of different scenarios with using different support systems to homeschool. And so that's why I'm coming on here to share some tips, because I know that a lot of parents are inadvertently working with their kids at home, those that have chosen to homeschool all along, and those who have to deal with temporary distance learning because of what we're all going through right now, okay? And so I thought it might be helpful to share some tips that work with me, okay? That work for me. So N. Roberts says, I think the different model of learning I could do, but I wasn't good in math. Yes. Well, yes, that's true. Like, I don't claim to be excellent at every subject, but I do know how to connect my child with the systems to help them succeed in areas that I'm weak. And so for me, I don't think math was a weak subject for me so much because of ability, so much as having maybe not had the best math class at one point, and then, oh, somebody gave me money. I got a top chat from Alex Gonzalez. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. She said, hope you and your family are staying safe. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for that. I wasn't even expecting that. I just came on here to share as per usual. But as I was saying, um I know how to connect my kids with the systems that they need. So, you know, for me, math, I had a bad math class, and it was geometry in high school, and I had done really really well up until geometry. And if you know anything about geometry, it's a more abstract way of thinking mathematically, and I don't know that the teacher that I had, his way of explaining things didn't really work well for me. And so I developed a kind of math insecurity and a math anxiety that I really struggled to shake after that. That said, I went all the way through AP pre-calculus, and performed decently on the AP exam, and went on to an Ivy League college and performed well there. So it didn't stop me, but believe it or not, I continued to have that math anxiety. Okay? And so when you homeschool your kids, you're bringing all the parts of yourself into the equation. And so I brought that math anxiety into the equation. Now, my husband is a mathematician, okay? He's very math confident, okay? So he kind of offsets me. And I've always known that if I'm struggling, I could fall back on him. And so my kids have sort of kind of inherited some of his math strengths. So I don't have kids that have an inability in math, but none of them love math per se. But I would say my husband loves math. So I always know that I can fall back on my husband to help us if I'm ever struggling. But if I really think about it, I went all the way up to, I took calculus in college, and did it. I did my thing. You know what I'm saying? I took statistics in college. You know what I'm saying? And so there's no reason I can't teach ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th grade math. I did it. I've done it. But we tell ourselves we can't do this because sometimes our insecurities come back. At least mine did. My insecurities came back. So, as you go into your first day of school, just realize that you're going in with your baggage, and everyone goes in with their baggage no matter what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Everyone goes in with their baggage. Even your professionals go in with their baggage. The professional teacher goes in with her baggage. When I was teaching professionally, at the umbrella school, I was paid to teach there, and I was teaching high school and 7th grade. I went in with my baggage with them. So when you're hiring a professional, that's not to say they're not going in with their baggage. So when you go in with the awareness that you're going in with your baggage, and you may not necessarily be aware of what all that looks like, until you act it out, And so I go in with my kids, right? Oh, Trey Musica Higgs, welcome. She said, good points. We all have baggage. We do. And I said that to encourage people that are going in and homeschooling for the first time, or even coming back, looking back and thinking, the job was a little rocky last year. We had a bad year last year. And if you've homeschooled long term, you'll see that some years are better than others. Some years are really challenging. I mean, I absolutely loved homeschooling until I got to middle school, and I was dealing with all the hormonal issues and the hormonal changes and all the attitudes, and I felt like the kids were so different in middle school, and for the first time, I wondered if I could homeschool. But they moved beyond that because it was a phase and a stage, and it was a parenting season that we had to go through, and we got to the other side and I enjoyed it again. But we had to press through that difficulty. So I'm not on here giving tips trying to imply that it's all roses, skipping through the fields every day, all of the time. But I think if we go into it with our eyes open, we're much more likely to stay the course. And so, late, I shared the tips I shared before. Make sure you have the same expectations as your kids, that the kids understand that this is not public school shrunken down and brought into the house. Okay, make sure that they understand that it's a one-on-one model and some things are going to be different. Make sure that they understand that leading them and teaching them doesn't mean you know everything, but you know how to get what they need. You know how to teach them to access the answers that they need. Okay. Something very simple we're going to be doing tomorrow, something that can make or break your schooling environment, is just laying down the laws for this year for what our expectations are, just using this room. Okay, what are our expectations using this room? Okay, we're going to be working in my office. If you don't know what my schoolroom looks like, I did a schoolroom tour, so check out that video on my channel. Did I introduce myself? My name is Natasha, by the way. So check out my schoolroom tour. If you don't know what I'm talking about. Well, we're working in my office, and there are 3 big desks in my office. One of those desks is my desk. I plan to be at my desk, or within easy reach of the kids during what we've deemed as school hours. In my house is going to be between 8:30 and 3 p.m. Not saying they're going to be sitting at their desks for that time, but we've blocked off that time to get through their schoolwork officially. I plan to make myself available to them during that time and unavailable to interruption, barring some kind of emergency during that time, so that our tutorial style of learning can happen where they're doing their reading and I'm available to jump in at any time if they need my support and assistance, because all of my curriculum has enriching things that I can interject in every subject every day that they're working. Okay, so one of the things we're going to spend time doing tomorrow is we're going to talk about what each and every one of our expectations are for working in this room. Are we going to allow beverages in this room? If we are going to allow beverages, we have computer equipment. Things can spill. Does it have to be in a closed container? Okay. Are we going to allow food in this room? What kind of food? Can you bring your dinner? Can you bring your lunch? Okay. Are we going to use headphones? Because someone might be watching a video that's related to what we're doing for school while the other person is sitting next to them. Is it okay for them to hear that? Does that bother you? Do you need a quiet environment? Okay, so are people going to be using headphones when they're listening to something? Okay, some people need music while they work. I don't care. You can listen to music, you can listen to a book on tape, as long as you can give me the same quality of work. I don't care what you need, but I've noticed that different ones of my kids work well in silence and others don't. Do we need to get you a noise cancellation headphone? Does some of the work need to take place in another room? Okay, because the office is where everything is organized, where all of the books are, and where I've organized for the work to flow between them and me for grading. But that doesn't mean if they have a book to read, they're chained to their desk. That's the wonderful thing about homeschooling. Like, my kids will read laying across the carpet. Some people will sit on the staircase while the weather's still nice, come out here on the deck. If you want to go to the basement, if you want to be in your room, if you want to, I really don't care where you want to do your schoolwork, as long as you're giving me the same quality of work that you would give me if you were sitting, at the desk. But what I want to avoid is you're in any room in the house having some random conversation, about some movie that you watch when you're supposed to be doing school. Okay, even though we're not going to be super rigid, we're still a family, and this is a family dynamic. It's not a classroom dynamic. So dad is working from home, my son is working from home, my daughter is not working from home, but she's in and out. If she walks through and says, hey, what are you reading, and you want to have a conversation with her about that, or she has a quick question for you about something, we can still let that happen. Okay, but on the first day of school, we're going to talk about what our work ethic is going to look like. And to a certain extent, I'm not trying to police my kids every minute of the day, every step of the way. They're buying in to agreeing to be diligent and do their schoolwork. I'm there to oversee and manage and make sure that it takes place. But at the end of the day, it doesn't work unless they've bought into it and they're willing to do it. Okay. And now for the younger kids, it's a little bit different. Now for my 10th grader, I have to have her willingness to cooperate. Okay. But for my youngest one, I'm still in charge. You know, she's only 10. So I have to in advance think through what are the consequences going to be in advance, not when I'm in the situation. In advance, I need to think through what are the consequences going to be if she doesn't do what I'm asking her to do, if she doesn't follow through, if she doesn't finish her schoolwork. What are the consequences going to be? And I need to know what those are. My husband needs to know what those are so she can't run to him and express something different or ask him for something different, and then they're playing us against one another. Okay? And then I need to be consistent with reinforcing all of that all of the way. So by planning all of these things ahead of time and having all of these systems in place ahead of time, the day of, it minimizes my stress. Okay? It minimizes my stress. I know what to expect and they know what to expect. Okay? And we just have to roll with it. Okay? That's what I've learned. It hardly ever works to come up with a good plan in the heat of the moment when you're in it already. Okay? It hardly ever works to do that. And so with homeschooling, you're still parenting and enforcing discipline at the same time. But you guys, my number one tip for the first day of school is to lower your expectations. Girls love your curls. Hey, welcome. Thank you. Yes, please watch the replay. But yeah, lower your expectations. Bring those expectations all the way down. Guys, it's only the first day of school. Okay? It's really only the first day of school. In Delaware, we have to school 180 days. This is only the first day. What that means is that you have time. You have time to get things under control. And I really would encourage you to take your time to get things under control. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm One Cherished Daughter on Instagram. There's a one in front of the cherished daughter. I've shared along the way a lot of the things that I've been doing to organize to start tomorrow and a lot of the systems that I have in place. But I have, even after homeschooling for all of these years, you guys, you know, I have systems that I've used year after year, okay? But I'm always aware of the fact that this is a new year. This is a new kid. This is the same kid that might be in a different developmental place. And so, and also we're in this crazy crisis situation that's changing almost on a daily basis, okay? And so whatever systems I have in place, I have to be flexible with them. Okay, so what that means is, you know, I intend to work this way. I intend to have it flow from 8:30 to 3 o'clock, but I might get into it and realize, wow, 8:30 to 3 o'clock, that's too long. Okay, by the time we get to 2 o'clock, we're done, we're through. We need to take a break. Or by the time we get to 1:30, we're done, we're through. We need to take a break. Okay. We need to take a 2-hour break. We need to take a 3-hour break. This opportunity just came up. This activity, somebody asked me, you know, what are you doing for enrichment activities? Okay, and I'll tell you in a minute. But these activities, this opportunity just came up. We're homeschooling because we're in control. Okay, we can shift things around. We can move things around in our day. Like my daughter recently accepted a position. She's only 14. She accepted a paid position to teach a dance class at a local school. Okay, so she'll be teaching kindergartners. She'll be teaching ballet. Okay, and so that's likely going to happen in the middle of her school day. We can do that because we're homeschooling. So she can have, you know, class time before she goes in and after she goes in. Okay, we can move things around, and that's the beauty of homeschooling. So, same thing with theater. She was assisting. She's done my daughters, the both of my younger two daughters, Anika and Rema, have done a lot of plays. They've been in multiple plays every year. And my daughter, my oldest daughter, the 10th grader, she has a gift for choreography, so she's choreographed 4 plays. And so she's actually been asked to assist the director of the play that does the play at our umbrella schools. Now, I don't know, with what's going on with the situation that we're all in, if theaters are going to open or if they're going to actually have a performance, but they may still choose to do the drama class. And if they do the drama class, she's assisting the teacher in the drama class. This is happening in the middle of the day. But we can make that happen because we're homeschooling. Okay, my husband is working from home, so I don't even have to pull my 6th grader to come along with us for me to drop her off somewhere. Okay, and do what she needs to do. So to answer your question about enrichment activities, in as much as things open up that we were involved in before, we were involved in track, we were involved in drama, we were involved in multiple dance opportunities. As much as these things open up, I'm here for it. Okay, and I wanted to be in control of our school so that I could manipulate and flex and shift our schedule the way I wanted to do it, as opposed to, sitting on Facebook on the governor's website waiting for him to speak and make a decision about what's going to happen for Delaware. you know and I understand everyone's in the same boat. If you have your kids in private school, if you have your kids in public school, or even if you're using an umbrella school like I was, and they're limited according to what the school district is doing. I just felt that as a homeschooler, I have the unique opportunity to take that level of stress out of the equation. Okay, I'm in control, and I can shift, manipulate, and alter things the way I want. Now, when I first came to you guys during the summer and did an unboxing for what we were doing for school, I had a plan where I was going to do French with my 10th grader, and my 6th grader could catch whatever she could catch, because it's really not a requirement for me to do a foreign language with her in 6th grade. Okay, but her enthusiasm was so great that I bit the bullet and I bought French 1 for her, and I did an unboxing. If you weren't here earlier, I did an unboxing on my channel with all of these French 1 materials. They're exactly the same as the French 2 materials, except French 1 has this oral mastery workbook, and French 2 doesn't have it. So it has a lot of exercises in here that, it's Mary's pencil, c'est le crayon de Marie, things that I'll do back and forth with them verbally to reinforce what they're learning in the French curriculum. Okay, I had to be flexible to shift my plan. Okay, my initial plan was the 6th grader didn't have to really get into it, but I saw how she was sucking it in and how much she was retaining. And because I homeschool, I was able to shift my plan, and pick up a whole separate curriculum just for her, so that I could push her, at the level of interest that she's demonstrating. Okay, so even this early in the game, I already made a change, with what I'm doing. Another plan that I had was that, my 10th grader is interested in nursing, and so without knowing what biology would entail for her, I thought, it wouldn't be bad if we were science heavy, since my younger daughter is doing anatomy and physiology and there's a health component to it. I thought it would be a good thing to allow my 10th grader to kind of listen in to some of the stuff that my 6th grader is doing, and kind of beef it up so that we could kind of sort of do kind of like a health component with her. Okay, but on Friday, when we sat down with her planner to look through the schedule for the different courses that she's taking, to kind of write out the plan for how she was going to get through the week's work in her planner, I noticed that, wow, this is a lot of work that she has to get through. There's no room for me to add this enriching health opportunity just because we wanted to explore that, at least not right now. Definitely not the first week of school when we're trying to adapt to things. Okay, lower your expectation. Even if you have these big plans, everything doesn't have to roll out the first day. Okay, and so I decided that I may revisit that idea later, but for now, I'm not going to add that to her plate. Instead, I'm going to allow her to get used to what's already in front of her. And if we're skating and she's sliding through everything and getting through her work really easily, and I see that there really is a hole in her schedule, then I'll introduce that. But for now, perhaps biology, high school biology at that, is enough for her. And we don't need to think about health quite yet, because there's another health curriculum that I've used in the past. I think it was Abeka. The curriculum, I'm using Abeka for French, but we're not doing Abeka for everything. We're only doing Abeka for French, and my daughter, my sixth grader, does Abeka math. And I would have moved her to Math UC, but the way that the scope and sequence is organized is a little bit different, and she's already doing well with Abeka math, so that's why I kept her on that. But the main curriculum that we're using for all of the other subjects is Sunlight, SONLIGHT. That's what we're using. And so, I'm going to just allow her to get used to that. What's the publisher of the French? Abeka. Yeah, this is Abeka. I'll hold it up for you. I didn't even know that they had a French curriculum. It's spelled with a K, not two C's. I didn't even know that they had a French curriculum. I was just looking through what they had, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, they have French. And me, this goes back to something I was talking about earlier, but I kind of got off track. Since French was my first language and I have good French comprehension, even though my verbal is a little rusty, because speaking a language, you actually have to do it not to lose it. And I don't have an opportunity to speak to a lot of people in French. My husband's American, my kids speak English, and I never was that parent that spoke French to my kids since they were a baby. I stopped speaking French when I was going into the first grade, when it was a hard push for me to speak English fluently for school. And so, but I thought that since I understand French, it would be easy for me to teach French, or at least doable. What I've learned with using this curriculum is that there's a system, and there's a lingo, and there are methods and tools that are used to teach this particular curriculum. The French one is called Nouveau Chemin, but this is the French one. It's called Nouveau Chemin. This is the workbook, the work text. There's also a vocabulary work text. There's a whole lingo and a whole system. And Abeka is also taught in private schools. And so a lot of times the teacher's manual to me reads like what a classroom teacher would need to do. There's an hour allotted for the class, and different activities are blocked out for certain parts of that hour. And there was a lot in the lingo that I wasn't quite familiar with, because I started at French 2. And the assumption is you've already done French 1, so we're building on French 1. It didn't seem to me like the two curriculum, stood well on their own. And so I was really challenged this summer. There was a steep learning curve. I was up to the challenge. I think I was able to, for the most part, figure things out. But I think I'll do even better now that I have French 1. I'll start from the very beginning when I'm working with my younger daughter, which will make it even easier for me to work with my 10th grader. Okay, so a lot of the lingo that I didn't understand, I think it'll be clearer because I'm doing French 1. They use both images, to learn vocabulary, and it's like their own sort of system that they created. I'll give you an example of that. I don't know how well you'll be able to see. There are kind of like stick figures that they use to stand for the pronoun. So sometimes you'll see the written pronoun, sometimes you'll see the images, and it just one reinforces the other so that it locks into your long-term memory better. the terms that you're learning because you're seeing them in multiple different ways. I think it to me it seems like a good system. Um, my only criticism to Becca would be that for French too, I don't think it would have been um, a bad idea to have some kind of key or some kind of guide or some kind of understanding that people might be buying it because their kid has already had a year of French and they don't want to start all the way from the beginning. And I think it would have been easier for me to use this summer if they had done that. But I'm excited to do this with my sixth grader. Now, this I think is written really for the high schooler, but I'm an English teacher. I taught English, seventh grade English, and also 11th grade English at the Umbrella School. And so, excuse me, that experience has given me even more expertise with grammar, even more than I've had even from homeschooling all of these years. And so the lingo, the grammar lingo is familiar to me, but I think maybe they have this for high school because maybe by sixth grade, your child still might need to go through some grammar to be at the level of grammar that they're addressing in the French. I'm not too worried about that because my sixth grader is really good at grammar. And whatever she doesn't know, I think I could fill in enough for her to be able to work with it. Besides, my goal for her is not to be this amazing French writer, is for her to be a good communicator in French and to build her vocabulary. And I think I'll definitely be able to do that with her. So anything that's too advanced, I just won't go there. And it's fine because she's in sixth grade. We could always revisit that aspect of it as she gets older. Okay, so I'm really excited, you guys, about tomorrow. And I think by keeping my expectations low, and I keep my expectations low enough so that even if we don't get through the entire plan, I wouldn't consider that a fail. You know what I'm saying? Because this is only the first day. We have 180 days to get through. Okay, and we have holidays we can choose to use or not to use. We can manipulate things. We're homeschooling. If something has to happen on Saturday morning, it can, even if it's not a full school day. There are places and ways we can maneuver things to get through things. And so just taking that pressure off right off the bat, okay, I find that to be helpful. Okay, and lastly, my final tip is I do think it helps to have some kind of loose plan, some kind of map for what you want the day to look like. My map doesn't have times, like I don't have, French at 10 o'clock, history at 11 o'clock. I don't have my day mapped out that way. I'm trying to encourage my daughters to not to earn, but to own their school day. And so the way the curriculum comes, the schedule is laid out for the week, and it's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and it keeps going all the way up to day 180. Okay. And so the way I approach it is we want to get all of this done this week, but we don't necessarily have to break it down the way it's laid out. So on Friday, we sit down and we map out, what our plan is going to be in their weekly planner for how they're going to get through the whole week. And so we did that on Friday. And so they have a list of things that they have to get through for Monday, and I made sure I kept that list very light and unambitious. Okay, because I want it to be a win for us the first day. But something I'm trying to teach my girls is about getting through the different things well, not just getting through them any old kind of way just to say we're done. Okay, so if there were 5 things you had to get through and you got through 3 of them well, that's a better win for me than you got through all 5 and half of the stuff is wrong in the different things that you're doing. And that's a shift in thinking for my girls than when they were working, to get material in on time, at their umbrella school. Okay, It was really important for them to get things in on time, and the teacher wasn't home with them seeing what was going on or what was happening that could have made that not happen. Or maybe we spent a little bit too long on math, so we weren't able to get through, everything we needed to get through. And as their teacher, I reserve the right to remove things. Okay. I've learned that, wow, I'm a box checker. I love to check boxes. But I've learned over the years that I don't have to check every box. Okay. And if the box is 2 by 2, I might decide to cut the box in half and make it 1 by 1 because it works better for my kid. In other words, they had 10 problems to do and I'm only asking them to do 5 because, either, is for whatever reason, I think 5 will be better. I reserve the right to make those changes. I'm the teacher. I'm in charge. Okay, maybe the next day they'll do 12 instead of 10. You see what I'm saying? So just allowing myself that flexibility and, redefining what a win is and working with, and I think that's a bit of baggage that I have, that I like to check boxes. I like to follow the rules. I like to do it all the way to the end, but always keeping in mind what my goal is and whether or not that may or may not be good. I have to think about that and make those adjustments with my kids, all the while being very transparent with my kids, letting them know that, I'm working through this. It's a process. We may have to readjust. I might make a mistake. It's all good. It's not about being perfect. Okay. It's not about being perfect. It's about having the goal to work toward excellence. Okay. But I highly value my effort. And as long as my effort is at the level that it needs to be, if the outcome isn't as great as what I want it to be, I still count it as a win. So I really reward and praise effort, okay, and intent in my home school and excellence. And our goal is mastery more than getting through the worksheet, if that makes any sense. If that makes any sense. So anyway, I don't know if you guys have any questions for me, but that's what I have, with flexibility being at the top of my tips for the first day of school. So pray for me, you guys. It's my first day tomorrow, and I'm hoping to be relaxed about it, and I'm hoping to flow into it with a great deal of humility in front of my kids, And I feel like when your kids are allowed to see that you don't have to be perfect, they don't feel like they have to be perfect, because no one actually is perfect. No one actually is perfect. Is that really the goal? And I like to model that a lot during homeschool. And I'm not afraid to tell my kids, wow, I blew it. Wow, this is hard. Wow, I don't get this either. Wow, I don't want to be here either. Wow. But just because I don't want to be here doesn't mean we can just blow it off and not buckle down. So, these are all tools that they'll take with them that will be very useful for their effectiveness as adults as well. Okay. So you guys, that's all I have for you today. Pray for me tomorrow. I'm excited. So I hope this was a blessing to you guys. I will see you in the next video. Be blessed.